Continuing our meditation now, let us listen to these words by Swami Kriyananda Ji on the subject of peace of mind. He writes, "Peace of mind is the result not of money in the bank, but of prayer and meditation. The more one contacts God in meditation, the more he feels descending upon him a blanket, as it were, of inner peace, cooling his body, calming his restless impulses, and thrilling his nerves with ever new delight. Peace is like a weightless waterfall, washing away all worries and bestowing a new glad sense of confidence. Peace of mind is his who knows that God is his only treasury." Let us affirm together, first loudly. From pools of inner silence, I sip the sparkling waters of thy peace. In a normal voice now. From pools of inner silence, I sip the sparkling waters of thy peace. Whispering now. From pools of inner silence, I sip the sparkling waters of thy peace. Mentally now, making this our subconscious reality. From pools of inner silence, I sip the sparkling waters of thy peace, only mentally. And now finally, with deep intention, faith, visualization, making this our living super conscious reality, mentally repeating these words at the spiritual eye one last time. From pools of inner silence, I sip the sparkling waters of thy peace. Inwardly, silently, let us pray. All that I own is thine, Lord. Help me to know thee as the river of peace, running silently beneath the sands of my life's experiences. Om Shanti, Shanti. We'll now have the reading for this week. I'll invite Darius to do that.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So for today's reading, I'll be reading out one of Swamiji's commentaries on, this time on the Bible. It's from his weekly compilation of a book, Rays of the One Light. I should know this. He has written a lot of books. Yeah. Okay. So this particular reading is regarding the Bible's answer to the timing of it all.
Bible and Bhagavad Gita.
And the Bhagavad Gita. This one's called The Eternal Now. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. When will I find God? Many devotees have asked this question because worldly goals require time. Usually, for their fulfillment, we imagine time to be a factor on the spiritual path. And so it is, but only because we think it is. God is in as much with us now as He will ever be. It is not He who needs to come to us. We need to come to Him. And that process of coming is a matter of transforming our self-perception. In the Gospel of St. John, chapter 4, Jesus Christ says, "Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest? Behold, I say unto you, Lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white, already to harvest. There's a practical teaching in these words, apart from their statement that we have God already and have only to realize that truth. Jesus is saying, lift up your eyes and look. To hold the eyes uplifted is the best position for meditation, for the seat of superconsciousness lies at a point midway between the eyebrows, in the frontal lobe of the brain just behind that point. This point is also known as the Christ center. By lifting up your eyes and concentrating there, you will find it easier to enter the state of ecstasy. That is why saints in every religion have often been observed during states of deep inner communion with their eyes uplifted, focused on the inner light, white, as Jesus said, already to harvest. The Bhagavad Gita goes further into this meditative teaching. In the 6th chapter, it states, holding the spine firm, the neck and head erect and motionless, let the yogi focus his eyes at the starting place of the nose. That is the point between the eyebrows. Let not his gaze roam elsewhere. In meditation, tell yourself, I have him already. I am alive forever in the divine light. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Thank you. Om Guru.
Good evening once again, everyone, and again, friends online too. So we'll start by seeing some pictures of our satsang we had. I just came from 2 weeks of my time at different centers in Moscow and Sochi in Russia. And when I even started praying, when I said, Heavenly Father, I don't know if you noticed, I waited for a moment because these 2 weeks were, every word was translated. So I was like, oh, now I don't have to wait for translation, but I will apologize to all our friends who are online that because this will be going at a certain speed, as you always do, the translation will be later for you. And live translation is not easy at this speed, but we are very happy that you've joined us and that you joined us in the last 2 weeks. And this visit, was at the request of actually our Guru Bhais over there last year to Jyotish and Devi ji, and Jaya ji and Dhyana ji, that given the situation between, Europe and Russia right now, we wake up to news headlines every morning, or maybe twice a day now. You have to just see your phone, and there are headlines waiting for you. And how it's very interesting in the last many years I've been observing, ever since the pandemic actually, that sometimes we'd be having a meeting between, let's say, our team in the US, China, Russia, India, and we are just exchanging beautiful things, experiences people are having, the Kriya, higher Kriya initiations, discipleship, the outreach, the translation. But of course, that's our headline, the Ananda headline. It's not, unfortunately, the world headline yet. But Babaji said that by man's individual experience, and that takes time, it takes time on an individual level, what to speak of global consciousness, mass consciousness. But Babaji predicted, he said, a time will come. These teachings will spread in every land. Now that has already happened. Even when Swamiji was alive, he would get letters from 200 countries. People thanking him for being the channel through which the teachings reached them right where they were. And of course, things have gone even far online and in more detail and translation. So without taking more time, I'll now introduce you to many of our Guru Bhais, the work they are doing, where is it happening, through the pictures and videos, and then we'll come back to the beautiful subject. And I'll just say one more line. As it happens in any meditation, or many times I've heard this, especially in India, when you go to one of the places of our masters, it could be for Garpar Road, it could be Babaji's cave. And this happened in our retreat in Sochi also, but the other one too. And this universal experience is you're spending, let's say, 6 days from morning 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. with a group of devotees. Let's say we all went on a retreat or pilgrimage. And people say, first day we are all new, we are introducing ourselves. Then we start meditating, doing yoga, satsang, question and answers, meals, kirtan. And day 2, 3, you're like, oh, suddenly it's day 4. And suddenly you're sitting in a closing circle. And many people said, especially I'm remembering Bhima's brother, forgive me, I forget his name, but very sweetly he said in the closing circle, he said, on one level, it feels like we know each other, and many of them were meeting each other for the first time. Russia has 5 or I believe 6 time zones. They were coming from Siberia and other places. And he said, on one level, it feels like we've known each other all this while, for a long time. On the other hand, how did these 6 days go by so quickly? We just arrived and now it's time to go back. And that, Kriyanandaji used to say, is the mystery of time. Even a little glimpse in that cave in Babaji's, people say, oh, cave, oh, 1 hour went by. Oh, really? I thought we just closed our eyes. Didn't we just pray? Now 1 hour is over. And it shows, Swami says, if you, it's like Divine Mother removes the curtain for a moment and you realize there's something else suspicious going on over here. Time is there, but as we know, even by physics, it's relative. And just like the astronauts, when they travel outside and come back, right now in sci-fi movies, we don't have rockets that are so fast, but science shows mathematically it's different. Time is different for different people. In yoga and meditation, it is absolutely different. When you go, Master said, to the inner universe. Finally, the good news is it does not exist. And it seems a little disastrous. Well, if it doesn't exist, what am I doing over here? And what about my age and my birthdays and incarnations? What about that theory? Well, it is true. But the higher truth, and I'll share a story later on, and it says, Master said to Swamiji, you know, Walter, in God, nothing is really even happening. Outside of him, everything is going on. He said, in him, it's all in the present moment, and that's where we should live. That's where rest is found. So it's a very, not a high teaching and philosophical, it's practical. Like I said, we experience it in now and then in different groups and places and in our sadhana. We'll go in more detail, but let's now talk about the last 2 weeks. They really happened. I did travel. There was time involved, and this is what I saw and I want you to enjoy. Was my first time in Russia. That's right there, arriving at the airport. And those are our friends, Nayaswami Girija and her son Dimitri. And it was just wonderful. You know, again, new country. Of course, Girija I have known now for about 17 to 18 years. Dimitri, we met only once. But then he told me, I asked him, who are you? What do you do? And he said, oh, I went to the high school in Ananda village. I was so-and-so. This person was in my batch. And I said, oh, really? Now they're in Ananda village. They're in this department. They're doing that. And just the joy of being on 2 different sides of the world, but all connected. And then, of course, the talk around Swamiji, Dimi's time with Swamiji as a teenager in the school, and beautiful things. So again, you know, darshan is really not just true for a master. Of course, we look at them and so many silent blessings come. Kriyananda used to say that bliss after bliss would come from master just by looking at him, he said. At the same time, when you look at Guru Bhais, they are children of the Guru. You don't need on one level too many questions. What are you? What do you do? You just know sometimes this is family. And then what comes out are correct details. So I felt like that right there when I landed and found these wonderful angels. They had brought me some food and we sat in a car and drove to Istra, which is 1 hour outside Moscow, where Girija and team run a place, which we will see now. That's their garden behind the main building. So daily energization twice a day. This is the inside of the temple. And you can see we are having satsang. Girija is next to me, sharing alongside with me, but also helping every day in every class with the translation. And again, wonderful devotees. They'd all come from different countries even, not just different parts of Russia. And we had wonderful satsang. We had a Kriya initiation, higher Kriya initiation, satsang for discipleship initiation, and then a 2-day retreat in Moscow. So 3 retreats in 6 days. Okay. That's the Kriya initiation with the Guru Bhais. Yes, some new and some new first initiates, second Kriya initiates, and some online. If you see Oksana, the devotee who's holding the laptop, so some had joined online also. Meals together, again, right there in that compound, in the different room, and beautiful, very like Divine Mother, like Guru Bhais who were preparing meals for us during the satsangs, everybody helping with cleaning, karma yoga. My main job was eating. It's a very hard job, very difficult to do. And I said, I'll take the difficult part. And you can see all the food in front of me. So I did that. And if you focus, there are wonderful Russian potatoes. You know, I have a book, I have a library with 3,000 books, and one book is the Potato Bible. And then it says 500 potato recipes from Russia. So I was telling my friends, oh, I have a book, but I'm eating these potatoes for the first time. So they took care of me, as you can see. This is our discipleship, and then another beautiful closing of one of our retreats. And I'm just looking at devotees, some stories. Girija was joking with me. She said, is this your magnetism? Suddenly all these big guys are showing up. And she said, we never had such tall people come to our satsang. I said, I don't know. But I said, I did want to meet some Russian brothers. I said, I heard so much. And just you can see just wonderful souls over there. Now, I was so grateful to our masters that just, Russia, again, as we all know, so big, but just 20 minutes from Istra, from our center, we have this monastery, this church, which was built in the 16th century by a priest who traveled to the Holy Land and brought details back then, every inch details of the structure, and then they built a replica of the Church of Christ from Bethlehem over here, and Bethlehem and the Holy Land. So this is a replica. Again, 100 years ago, in the First or maybe Second World War, it was unfortunately destroyed. But just 10 years ago, they finished rebuilding it, and we all had a pilgrimage over there. Very beautiful day it was. And this is a friend of Bhakti's, I'm told. This is in the city of Moscow. And my topic was how to be a channel of light. It was a 2-day program. So I was doing a satsang. And I shared some, and when you're in a new culture, new people, you want to make sure that, are you making sense? Is this relevant, practical? So I stopped at some point and I said, are you all enjoying this? Is it helpful? And right where Mansiji is sitting, there was this little girl. She said, yes. And I said, and we had just finished a healing prayer. I said, what did you enjoy? She said, the energy. I said, sweet soul. And so I later, took a picture with her. And she had come with her parents, and her other 2 siblings were back home. So again, very, very sweet families and part of our congregations there. This is Yudhishthira singing one of the chants. His mom, Armine, they both had also come from a neighboring country in Russia, but they had traveled. Yes, Russian. So what I would do is, Armenia, yeah, they're from Armenia. So I would sing once in English, then they would join in Russian, or we would say, okay, 2, so twice, and we just, it's very, very sweet. I'll show you some chants, very devotional. This is the end of our Moscow city retreat and program with, Guru Bhais and many new people who joined. Now, this is the beginning of pictures in Sochi, in south of Russia, along the Black Sea. So we have a retreat center about 15 minutes drive from the Black Sea up into the hills. So some devotees have come together and built a beautiful retreat over there. And this is where, if some of you know, last few years, Snejana, Guru Seva, Vijay have been coming to Pune. They all live here, they serve here, they are the core team, and then many others will start coming from this year. So this is again at the end of a beautiful Kriya initiation we had over there was just very uplifting, and a picture from there. Many, again, new initiates as well as a renewal from some devotees. This is Arjuna, my translator, just a wonderful soul, and instantly just felt like a brother, and like with everybody. So I'm very grateful to him. I was telling the devotees in Russia, I said, you're getting 2 satsangs, and I hope they are the same. One is coming from me, and but then it passes through his mouth. So yes, Arjuna, do the right translation. He didn't have to stop like thrice in a whole week. He checked me, what is that? But otherwise it was just, he knew everything. So thank you, Arjuna. This is a picture with our retreat. And we are looking just outside the building into the valley. And outside is a dining area. So again, you can see, and families had come, children had come, so they were playing around outdoors. And again, I'm just quickly seeing many devotees from different parts of Russia, Siberia, another country. The devotee in yellow on the right, she just took discipleship for the first time. There are new initiates in this picture. And children too, I was very happy. Children sitting, participating, singing. And I had told them, I said, look, this is going to be, because, we were really morning to evening. I said, get up anytime, go and play. So they were coming, going, doing their drawing. They made pictures and paintings for everybody as a gift. And so it was very beautiful to have the whole family feeling there. And also one more thing, our devotee on the left, who is sitting down in a blue jacket, he's a marathon runner. So we were energizing, and I was getting feedback. I said, is this helping you? Is pranayam helping you? What do you feel? And he just was like, yeah, this is energetic. This is really different and special. So many wonderful souls. Wonderful food. So I was like, now that looks like bhakti. I said, I saw Bhakti and her sisters everywhere. So she was very, very sweet lady. She was cooking for us, and I gave her some Indian incense. And interestingly, she had brought in her pocket a gift for me, and it was a little elephant, which was an incense holder. So I said, Master, that's so sweet. She gave me the holder, I gave her the incense. And, you can see from her nature, she was checking all the time. Are you okay? Are you hungry? I said, I'm not hungry anymore. And that's the tray she had given in my hand. So I said, you hold it. Let me take a picture. That's the amount of food that was coming my way. No. Then I put it on the plate. I said, your generosity is very sweet, but we must share these things. So very sweet lady. Now, while we were in the retreat, 2 of our devotees, Balaram and his wife Sophia, who are the founding members and investors in this retreat, they purchased the land and built it. They had come from Assisi in Italy, where we have a center which has been conducting for many, many years teacher training for our teachers in Russia. So those certificates came with them, and people said, hey, why not give it to them? So a very beautiful time. From left, you can see Snejana and the Guru Seva, and I forget, Vasalya, then Pranava from Siberia. He runs the meditation group there, and Gayatri. And again, Gayatri, I have to tell you, she attended the retreat for 1 week in Moscow, then took a train, came down to Sochi and attended a week. Both places, she was serving, cooking, cleaning all day long and attending as much satsang. And then she told us later, and she was leading the super conscious living exercise. I said, I've never seen Dhanaji, you will love to see her, how she does it. And she would just go on and on. And I said, go for it. There's no limit over here. We have 6 days. The interesting thing was, she said, she said, I thought this is impossible for me to do for 2 weeks. Maybe I'll attend 1 retreat. But she said, I thought Master can do it through me maybe. And she said, I cooked, I cleaned, I was serving, I was attending programs. And then she said, I decided to wake up 4 o'clock, at 4 o'clock every morning to do my meditation before everything, cooking and all starts. And she said, I was able to do it. So she was giving that testimony that where does this energy come from? And I said, that's the whole point, and that's the teaching. So, and you can see she had just come up from the kitchen to get her certificate at that moment. So very, very inspired by their example. Okay. Again, our yoga classes, that's the retreat center. You can see hills on all sides. Yes, lots of Ananda yoga teachers there. Morning, evening, we were having this yoga class. Yeah, again, just before the Kriya. And again, very sattvic, beautiful. Arjuna is chanting. Again, and in both these retreats, during all programs, we also had online participation from people. Again, you can see the kids sitting there. And one kid, on the sitting down in the black T-shirt, he just loved Indian food. So I was carrying some snacks. I told, "This is all yours," and he was like, "Really?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Don't ever worry about food. I can send you supplies." And very sweet boy. And he asked me when I just reached. The first question actually came from him. He said, "How can we be so joyful?" He said, "Whenever I come here, I feel joy." And I was like, this is something's going on over here in this family for kids to ask that question. And then while I'm in that flow, somebody asked me the first question next morning was, what's the difference between a saint and somebody who is saintly? And can our ancestors who were saintly find God without Kriya Yoga? Third question, or maybe this was the first. What is the role of a guru to help us find God? I said, this retreat is starting on some high note over here. And again, I was very, very happy with that. I realized that it has deep spirituality. I'll also share a quote. Right now is a good time. Later I may forget, from a book. I got a book from a bookstore in Moscow. And the book was The Monasteries of Russia. And wonderful pictures and details. But what really won my heart, I said, I'm going to buy this book, was the first line, opening line in the book. And it says, "It is not the church that gave rise to the monasteries. It is the monasteries that built the church." Now, of course, church starts monasteries, so that is understood. But what they were saying is, in the monastery, you find God, you have a certain spirit, and then you do outreach. But then he went further. He says, the monastery is composed of monks. And now change monastery to a congregation. An organization can start centers, but the centers are as good as their congregation. And the congregation is formed of individuals. And Swami used to say, ultimately, in the final analysis, whether religion, spirituality, sociology, he said the individual experience of God is the nectar that fills the organization. So when I read that quote, again, I always had envisioned and thought in my mind that Russia is so big, so cold, and monks and nuns here and there. What's going on? I wanted to know, but that little teaching, I was like, that's the right teaching. And then Master said, once you have a soul, crowds of souls, and you can start beehives, but don't get it wrong the other way. So I was very, very impressed, like I said, by the quality of questions and the people. Okay. It was wonderful, wonderful children. They were drawing. These are two drawings they made for me. And then I not only accepted it, I went back and I said, can you please write for Aditya from your name? And when they wrote it, I had a translator. I said, please let them know this is the first time I'm seeing my name in Russian. And the girls were like, really? So I said, yeah. They were very happy. And of course, so were we. They made little bookmarks and other things for everybody. Sadhana time. That's Bhima on the left. That's the video. We'll see a few videos. Now, this boy's name is Radimir, which means joy and peace. I was like, come right there in the front line, right next to the main chanter, pulled his cushion, and go for it. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this happened every day. Every evening we had kirtans. All the kids were there playing instruments and singing. Okay. This is their choir. So again, for anybody who may not know, these are songs by Swami Kriyananda ji, and they are sung at all our different centers in different languages. And again, was my first time hearing them in Russian. Beautiful, yes. And we had an evening of arts where poetry, master's poetry, music, choir, kirtan, everything was put together. So this is instrumental music of Swamiji. Kirtan time. Again, a translation, very deep, very beautiful. This, I believe, chanting, okay. Radhamir, again, you can see front line right there. All right. Any more pictures? Okay, this is it. So thank you, Russia, for the joy of sharing Master and Swamiji and our friendships together. And as I was mentioning then, they're planning to come here. And Swamiji has a song, called Brothers. And in that song, essentially what he's saying is Master's teaching that we are all motivated by our desire to be happy, to avoid suffering. And yet, Master used to say, see how few achieve that goal. And Master, of course, was joyful. Swami was joyful. And bit by bit, like Babaji predicted, these teachings are spreading in different places. Many people who came are center leaders. They are meditation group leaders, leading online work. And we are starting a discussion now how to help each other. How can we do online promotions, teacher training, music, choir? How can they come to pilgrimage in India? And how can teachers from here and other parts, from Italy for many years, teachers have been going. But, visas are not, they get disrupted easily nowadays given the situation. It's happening between India and China and many, many other countries. But again, notwithstanding that, at the heart, how can we help one another? So that beautiful teaching, I think I felt very grateful for this opportunity to get a glimpse in their culture and the Guru Bhais there. Now, this story is Pranava, if you're watching from Siberia. I had promised him, and later I remembered, I never shared the story. So this is for you, and very interestingly, it is in line with our teaching today, our topic, which is the eternal now. And in that reading that Darius did, Swami writes that beautiful quote from the Bible. Even 2000 years ago, Christ was sharing the same thing. towards the end of Swami's life, he was giving a talk. I believe it was in Delhi, and he said, focus here at the point between the two eyebrows. I was sitting next to a long-term member, and they just very sweetly said, 40 years ago when I first came to Ananda, he was teaching the same thing. Focus here. And it's not about 40 years. It's not about 2,000 years. That's simply how we are made. When we are inspired, when we are happy, when we are trying to look for a solution. Swami used to say, it's not like God is up there, but in you, this is where you can feel him. So that beautiful line, lift your gaze and see that the harvest is ready already. And Kriyananda used to say that, harvest should be on the ground. If you're walking, you tell somebody, look, let's cut this harvest. It's now ready. But Christ is saying, lift your gaze and see that the harvest is ready already, that light is there. And Kriyananda used to say that God is here. Even after Swami's passing, somebody was missing him. And Swami came in this devotee's dream, and the person was naturally asking, where are you? I'm not able to meet you, and I miss you. And Swami simply said in the dream, he pointed like he did during his talks. He said, come here. You'll always find me at this point between the two eyebrows. I'm always staying over there. And really, it has nothing to do with size. It has nothing to do with the part of the brain. A certain part of the brain is also there, the prefrontal lobe, as Swami wrote. And it has many, many wonderful benefits. Your and my personality, our social behavior, empathy, the first bonding between mother and child, many, many key things, willpower, concentration, they are all processed at the prefrontal lobe. But like I said, much more importantly, when we reach this point, universally, all saints get an experience, and that experience is, like Master said about Anthony, that Christ, when he appeared to him, Anthony said, where were you, my Lord? For 80 years I called out to you. Where were you? And Master very sweetly, enacting Christ, Christ said to Anthony, Anthony, I was just the same with you. And isn't that good news? That you and I may be going up and down, and God knows, how we're feeling, but at least God's gaze is on us. He's watching us. He's not like Krishna said, oh, Arjuna, know this for sure. My devotee is never lost. So just a few hours from here is the place of Satara. And this is the story, Pranavaji, for you. And in that region, there lived a great saint, Swami Ramdas, the guru of King Shivaji, the warrior king, who was told by many other great saints, Gyaneshwar, Tukaram, Divine Mother herself appeared to him and empowered him to do the dharma he had to do as a warrior king. But here's the interesting thing, his true guru was Ramdas, and Ramdas, when he wrote his life experiences and teachings in the book Das Bodh, I read this about 15 years ago, beautiful extract. One extract was one morning, he prays to God in the form of Divine Mother. He said, Mother, what is really happening over here? What is this creation all about? And instantly he has a spiritual experience. And in this experience, he sees a river. He finds himself in a river which is so wide that he cannot see the ends of it. Water is flowing, he's in the water, and millions of other people are in that water. And it's a heart-wrenching scene because he says millions are drowning over there. And he's like, he asks God what's happening, and this is how it begins. And he's like, oh my goodness, what's happening? And then he says the scene slowly changes, and in that river, he sees mountains and islands. So you can see how big the river is. There are mountains inside of it. And the river is cutting into the hills and turning them into sediments, basically, one by one. And he continues in that vision, and he sees now that it's going upstream. He's going upstream, but he's somehow not trying too hard. The same effort with which he was swimming earlier, he's continuing, and he asks the question, how can this be possible that I'm swimming upstream, but what is lifting me up? I'm not putting out this much energy. And then he keeps going up, up, up in the river, and he sees a light. And as he comes to that light, he realizes this is the beginning of the river. And that light is God. And he says, he has questions now, what's this river? Who are the people who are drowning? What are those mountains and islands? And how did I come up without too much effort in the end? And before he can ask a question, that light turns him around. And he looks and he says, there was no river. And so it is, Swamiji says, that of course, when God created this universe, when he became this universe, he became everything, you and me. He, first of all, did not create anything twice, which is why we look different, we think different. And Swami says, don't focus on the differences, focus on the commonality. And from that standpoint, Swamiji said that when God created all of this, he became it and he gave us individuality. And the sole purpose is to find him, go back into that joy. And Swami said, if in the beginning it seems painful, first we don't know, then so much time goes around in reincarnation. Even after we find a guru, Swami had a brother monk. He one day told him, he said, Walter, I had a dream that I was with Master in Lemuria. And Swami says, Lemuria? Anyway, one good thing is when you have Master living with you in the same building, Swamiji saw him, and one of the things he asked him that day was, Sir, this brother monk had a dream that he was in Lemuria, he was with you. Is it true? And right away Master said, oh yes, I was in Lemuria. He was with me also. He was my disciple. And Swami right away thought, he was your disciple and then Swami says, Sir, how long ago was this? Master said, 80,000 years ago. So Swami said his spine stiffened and he realized that, he said, how long has he been your disciple, Master? And Master said, oh, a long time, And then Swami forgot all about the brother monk and he thought, let me ask while we are discussing. He said, Sir, have I been your disciple before? And Master said, oh yes, Walter, many times. And then Swami said, Sir, how long have I been your disciple? And Master very sweetly, just no judgment, and Master very sweetly looked at him. He said, all I'll say is, it's been a long time. And then Master said, desire for name, fame, and such, again and again take us away from the path. And Kriyanandaji said, on one level, you can keep playing over here. God created the principle of time. Like Sri Krishna says, Main kaal hoon, I am time. He becomes, consciousness becomes everything. But Swami says, do you really want to keep playing? You can play once you have him. And play in the sense, seek ye first the kingdom of God. Rest everything. Once, Master said you should always say, I and my Father are one. Once you have God, then we finally know what's going on. Before that, it's all waves up and down. This birth, that birth, this much time, this error. And Master was thankfully non-compromising. He told some devotees, don't do this. It will cost you 200 lifetimes. To another one, he said something similar. And Swami said, it's a horror show. It's like somebody says, hey, I'm going to travel the whole world. And it's a good aspiration. And you say, great, what's your plan? Plan? What is a plan? I don't have a plan. I don't have a map. I'll just go where I go. Well, it may not end very beautifully if you don't know the way and the roads and the bridges and destinations. So good to be an explorer with the map. And the map is the spine, the point between the two eyebrows, our attitudes, our seva, then the whole science of yoga, Kriya Yoga, the need for a guide like a guru comes in. And with that, like Ramdas ji was saying, What joy! What joy! Even if one saint has added his testimony, Master said he would fight with Divine Mother. What's going on? People are crying and howling, Mother. This was during World War I and II. And she said, but this is a dream. You know it is a dream. He says, I know it, but they don't know, Mother. And she says, that's why I sent you. Tell them. And then Master would, of course, tell us this story that this is my conversation with Divine Mother. So, what are we doing in Ananda? We're trying to create a wonderful life. We are trying to live in a sattvic way. But most importantly, we are trying to go back home. It's not an escapism. It's not like you're going somewhere. Kriyananda ji said for the first time, you become everything. So far, you're trying to become this or that. And Swami said, and I'll close with this, that God offers every child in creation the gift of the entire universe. But man says, oh, but I want this. And Swami says, this is part of the universe. Who would, who would exchange it? He said, go for once, go for the giver of the gift. Time, space, past friends, mothers and fathers, skills, all these things, life itself which we cling to, my life, I want to do this thing. Who are you in the first place? God alone exists. So if we follow the guidance from within and outside from a guru, then we say, hey, this is wonderful. Now I know finally what's happening. And Swami says, you come out of this pit, which even Sri Krishna, the creator, he said that, get away from my ocean of suffering. So on one level, it is a creation. But if we raise our consciousness, like Ramdas said, and this is actually, sorry I didn't explain that story, when those millions of people were drowning, he says that's where in Kali Yuga, which is where he was, the consciousness of people was. And then he said those hills and mountains represented our past karma, our habits, that they are very big. But if you stay in the river, if you keep doing Kriya Yoga, pranayam, bit by bit it will be dissolved. Then you come up to the heart center, he said. And the power of devotion, it takes you upstream and it doesn't feel like hard work. Think of Bhim, think of Hanuman, think of Kriyananda ji, Yogananda's aspiration for God. They would just do anything because they had the heart quality. And that, Ramdas ji was saying, that's the heart center. Then, of course, we go up and we see the spiritual eye. And once you reach there, you're like, that was a nice show. Thankfully, it never happened, except in God's mind. So you retain your identity, you retain the dream, you retain the memory. But most importantly, finally, we inherit that which God always had in mind, that if someday Aditya comes here, I'd like to give him this. So let's go home and into that light. Om Guru. Let's take a moment to meditate. Let's rub our hands together, send these blessings out into the world.